And the Sports Bag Bros podcast is back on. We're heading into the weekend. So before we head into the weekend, you know what's going to happen. We have to talk about the things that may happen during this weekend. Some of the things that are happening tonight. I know this is a recorded episode, so I can't just say tonight. We just know it's Thursday. College football starting up, so there's something to talk about there. And I wanted to talk about a lot of college football, but I guess the biggest news that happened today, Micah Parsons was good.
Man, he's stealing my thunder. I was gonna say happy Husker game day. We're gonna eat up some Bearcats tonight, and fuck Micah Parsons and fuck the Packers too.
Bro, I've been hearing more of that part of Michael Parsons. People who aren't even Cowboy fans saying that to him. Scott sent me a message like, "Bye, Michael Parsons." I'm like, what's the deal with this, man? What's up? Everybody just did it like Micah Parsons for a change. It wasn't Jerry Jones being the reason why things turn out the way they are. But now he's in Green Bay. You have every right not to like his ass for real. Now he's on your biggest enemy now, Green Bay and Chicago. But the money they gave this guy, $188 million for 4 years, a $47 million average, and he's getting over $136 million guaranteed. Oh, I guess that back stiffness he had that kept him out of camp and kept him out of the preseason. He'll be ready to go next week.
Did he borrow James Harden's fat suit? He's gonna be in shape now.
Well, yeah, he's in shape now, man. Got his money. He's in shape.
I'll hate him, but I can still wish him congratulations. You know, that's a major accomplishment, getting that large of a bag.
Ooh, that was a serious bag.
Him and his family, and hopefully he does some good with it also. But you nailed it on the head. I'm a Bears fan, so fuck him and fuck the Packers. Everybody up in Green Bay, all them cheeseheads, they all can get the fingers.
Yep, and right now, Jordan Love is going to play with a brace on his thumb going into the first game. I guess that's even better for people who are playing against him, because I know even though it was preseason, he went 1-5 against the Jets. They roughed him up a little bit for the time that he was in there, but I don't expect that to happen during the regular season. But if anything is going to be an impediment, a thumb injury for a quarterback typically is. But regardless of just what's going on with him, I think Michael Parsons being the big news that it is, and you look at the return, 2 first-round draft picks and another player coming from Green Bay. Was it Clark, defensive tackle?
I don't know. I only heard it was 2 picks.
2 picks and a player, Pro Bowl player at that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I was like, 2 first-round picks, that's it. But I don't know. One of my coworkers was like, Packers just won the Super Bowl. I don't know about that. I mean, it definitely improves their team.
Oh, absolutely.
Defense. You know, Jordan Love kind of took a step back last year. We'll see if he returns to form. But he makes that defense very formidable.
He absolutely does. You know, Kenny Clark, by the way, was the defensive tackle that ended up going to Dallas in the trade. So you have those 2 first-round picks and Pro Bowler Kenny Clark going down to Dallas. And what does that really do for Dallas? You took away your best player on defense, maybe your best player on the team. He's in Green Bay. Green Bay hasn't had anyone sacking with double digits since 2020. So they could definitely use someone who at least has that ability to do it. But we've seen so many things like that in the past when a player gets all of this money and then no longer the player that you thought they were. And then the real injuries do come, just in case he was faking this one. The real injuries do come and they can't get past themselves. And, you know, you saw that with Albert Haynesworth. He turned out to be like one of the biggest dogs in the NFL in a bad way. Got that big money, went to Washington, and laid down like a dog, got injured, everything, but he had his bag.
Well, I hope this doesn't happen, but when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, Bears fans
I was about to say that too.
Going crazy. I was like, yeah, we still got a suspect quarterback, a suspect offense. I was like, he ain't gonna make that much of an impact. But it was crazy. He was getting strip sacks.
In the beginning, yeah, he was killing it by himself.
Causing fumbles, and the rest of the defense just kind of rose to his level. The DBs were getting pick sixes. You know, they were getting the offense the ball in the opponent's 35-yard line. Made it really easy. However, that only lasted one season.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He started like hell.
The following season.
Damn, man. And I remember people were comparing him to Lawrence Taylor even a little bit after that. They asked Bill Belichick of all people about it because they know Bill Belichick and Lawrence Taylor had that connection, defensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yo, we're talking about Lawrence Taylor here. We're talking about Lawrence Taylor, man. But when Khalil Mack was on, that dude reminded you of Lawrence Taylor when he was on for that little bit of time. He showed some flashes of Lawrence Taylor. It's just that Lawrence Taylor flashed in his entire damn career damn near. But this dude, for that one shining moment, using going from college football to basketball to this.
I have to admit, I was wrong. Khalil Mack made an impact that I did not see coming, and it just they couldn't sustain it over the next season or following seasons. And then of course he got traded because his production dropped.
Yep, but
that initial impact, man, was crazy.
Yeah, but was it the players rose to the occasion because they fed off of his energy? And then what happened? Did he just get injured and he wasn't as explosive anymore? So the players kind of went by the wayside along with him?
I don't really remember him getting injured. I don't know. Maybe,
I was wondering, could have been injury.
Sometimes you kind of surprise people. They don't expect it. They don't expect it. They don't see you coming. Well, the next year, everybody knew he was coming, so they probably have better game plans.
Yeah, that's true too, and that's the difference between being compared to an all-time great who did it year in and year out. No matter what the hell they did, he was still showing up on a high level year in and year out. You do it that 1 year, even though the reason why he went to Chicago is because he was doing well before. So he goes to Chicago and he does well for that moment, but didn't have it. He was showing flashes even after that, but he was never the same.
Yeah, absolutely. He was decent, but like exactly. He was all world that first season with the Bears.
That's what he was. He was dominant. He was.
If he had 5-6 seasons like that, he'd be a no doubt Hall of Famer.
Oh, no question.
He can sustain it.
And I don't think anybody can. I think J.J. Watt.
Since then, he's just a good player, where he was unbelievably great that one season.
And to think about it, he came from the University of Buffalo, not exactly a school you think that kind of a talent would come from. And I remember when he was drafted, and I was like, he's from Buffalo. And I understand the smaller schools could have these top players. I remember John Abraham came from an 0-11 South Carolina team, first pick for the Jets, and he was a dominant damn player while he was healthy and did even better when he went to the Atlanta Falcons. So, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that you come from a bad team. You're bad, too, by default. You have those diamond in the roughs on bad teams. But anyways, Parsons seems to be the biggest news in the NFL as the season starts next week. So we'll be talking about, hell, we got to come up with our picks next week, next Monday at least, talking about players of the year and all the other stuff that comes with it. And McLaurin got his contract done. I didn't think it wasn't going to get done. That's done now. So Jaden Daniels has a second year to go in with a reliable receiver. You know what he does. You know how he can get it done. I just hope he doesn't get injured because it seems like that's what happens to these players. They get these either hold out for a long time or they complain about money and then they come back, get the money they want, and then they get injured. And those are legitimate injuries. It's not like, a hurt back and all that kind of stuff they could fake. That just happens to them. I hope it doesn't, but this is football and this is a collision sport.
I think there's something to be said about not missing camp and being an actual.
You know what? Yep, exactly. And veteran players sometimes, like an Aaron Rodgers, who's been around forever, don't want to come to camp. So it's not even that they make excuses. I think coaches kind of play along with it. He's there, kind of got a little tweak. He can stay on the stationary bike, walk around with a clipboard, look kind of important, knowing that he's going to be the guy anyway. So you know what? As long as he's in camp, you can say he's in camp. He just does not exercise on everybody, going through the drills like everybody. He's just doing some of the necessary things you have to do on the sideline, getting prepared, and he gets away with it. But there's been a lot of players over the decades who've done that, just miss camp because, man, I've been to too many damn camps. You're excited your first, second, and third year perhaps, but when you become that deep veteran, not even Lawrence Taylor showed up to the damn first NFL camp I ever went to with the Giants back in 1990 at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And now, I come out here and Lawrence Taylor's not here. We got Carl Banks out here. We have Eric Dorsey was out there. Bart Oates, all these players we saw on television and no LT.
Was Pepper Johnson there?
Johnson, yeah, Pepper Johnson there. Steve Diassi was there. Yo, bro, they had the squad there. They won the Super Bowl that year against Buffalo. And that was Rodney Hampton's first year, first pick out of Georgia. And it was Joe Morris's last season with the Giants. You know, he came out of Syracuse, was number 20, really reliable, 5'7", 196, just a Parcells guy, period. You know, even Mark Bavaro was out there. So, everybody in the New York area loves Mark Bavaro. But anyway, that's just how that went.
So, getting back to what happened for the Bears against the Chiefs, one thing I forgot to mention, Caleb Williams, after the first series, he had taken off his helmet. I guess he got his ball cap from one of the assistant coaches or something.
Yeah.
Thought his night was done. They get the ball back, and Ben Johnson's like, yo, get your asses back out there. You got some shit to work on. You ain't done. And so he probably was told, yeah, you play the first series and then, take it easy after that. But Ben Johnson wasn't happy with what he saw. He's like,
exactly.
Motherfuckers getting back out there. You got shit to work on. Let's go.
That prima donna nonsense that, you told me just one series or you told me one half, I'm done. No, if you look like crap for a series or crap for a half, you got to go out there and correct it or at least attempt to correct it so you could go into a practice, know what you're doing wrong.
The whole first half, that's how bad they looked. He's like, nah, go back out there. Go back out there.
But did he get any better?
They started moving the ball late in the second quarter. It was 20-zip, I think. I mentioned that. That was the Bears' MO.
Yeah.
Last year, looked like crap first half. Come on like gangbusters the second half. But in this instance, it was the second quarter. But I don't even know if the KC's number ones were on the field.
Nah, matter of fact, I saw Chase Daniels breaking down the game. And the Chiefs did have their starters in there in the beginning because I think the title of that clip that he had was Caleb Williams fooling you better than, fooling the defense, saying that. So he was kind of on his side with the way he was doing things. So that's what his clip was about. So they did have their starters out there and he was facing them. So apparently through Chase Daniels.
One or two decent throws don't mean shit. If you can't score, you got to put points on the board.
Yeah, that's the goal. Situational, you still want to be able to get into the end zone, even in a preseason game, have some type of momentum and having people believe in what you're doing. You can believe in what the coach has set up for you and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I can see why, you leave them in there and you want them to score. And hell, that's the goal anyway, because I always said that preseason is about, well, now as an adult, that preseason is all about getting acclimated to being out there, but working on a game plan and also being able to evaluate the players first and foremost. You know who you're going to have on there, but then you want to see how those diamond in the roughs or just someone who jumps out of nowhere might just do. And, and that's how, they rather have that. They want the win as well, but I think that when they get what they want from the people who are on the field, I think they can be satisfied with that if they don't even score. Because if you have like second string guys out there who probably aren't going to play much in the game anyway, and they actually show up in that game, but they still can't score, I think you're happy that they're playing well. And the next step should be scoring. That's a little theory to go with. The next step, because it's a progress, and now you have 3 games instead of 4 games, so they have every excuse in the world to not gel completely.
I don't know. I feel you want to look good in your final preseason game heading into your first game. You got to have a bit of confidence. If you have question marks all over the field, how can you roll into week 1 with confidence? Because in practice is one thing. If they're in pads or shells or whatever, maybe not even practicing full contact, what are they proving?
Well, by the end of the game, you typically are going to have people who aren't even going to be in the team anyway. So, you want to see your starters in there and doing well when they're doing well. But once they get out, and typically now in this day and age, in the last game of this preseason, most of those guys aren't playing anyway, the starters. You might have your rookie in there. Caleb Williams is no longer a rookie, so they don't necessarily need him in there that late. They kind of have an idea, even though there's the new coaching staff, they have an idea of what they want to do with him. and how they want to do it. They made him get his ass back out there for that. But I guess at the end of the game, was he still out there?
Who, Caleb?
He didn't stay out there for the to the end. He didn't stay out there to the end of the game, did he?
He played the first half. I told you, Bagent led a second half.
Yeah, he played the whole first. Yeah, it was Bagent. Yeah, you said Bagent. Yeah, because I was talking about it because I just saw the numbers and saw how Bagent did well. So Bagent's going to be one of those serviceable backups and possibly have his moments.
The frustrating thing is you watch and you see Caleb looking around, holding ball, and gets rid of it. Bagent gets the ball, bam, it's out. Bam, it's out. He's on time. Why can Bagent do it? Why can't Caleb Williams do it? It's does Caleb Williams not understand the offense? Does he not know what his initial reads are, where he's supposed to go with the football? Because Bagent understands.
Yeah.
He's just not the most talented. If Bagent had Caleb Williams' arm, Caleb Williams would be right in the bench.
And now I think because neither one of those guys is the coaching staff's guy. So I think whoever plays the best, there wouldn't be any problem in putting that guy in with the hot hand if he's consistent.
They gave Bagent an extension.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty big too.
But they liked him enough to sign him.
But then they just give him that was like pretty big money for a backup, man. I think I saw the number a couple of days ago.
18, 20 million, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot for a freaking backup, but they do have some belief in him. And apparently they've seen enough to think that he could probably do something if the opportunity is there. Both guys not being the quarterback of this new coaching staff, I think it works in Bagent's favor because Caleb Williams still probably thinking being the number one overall holds weight, and it probably does with the organization. But with the coaching staff, if they start winning, and then Bagent becomes part of that winning more than what Caleb is doing, it's easy for them to turn the other way and not lose any credibility over it.
The issue with Bagent is because he played, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 games when Justin Fields was injured. After teams saw what he was doing, like checking down, hitting, getting rid of the ball on time, they brought defenders up and dared him to throw deep, and he couldn't beat them deep. Maybe the wide receivers at the time weren't as talented. I can't remember if they had DJ Moore or not. So
yeah, I think they did have DJ Moore back then.
They might have.
That was 2 seasons ago.
But is DJ really a really good deep threat? They do have better. They do have better wide receivers now. So maybe if they dared him to throw deep, maybe he could, but he couldn't then. I don't know.
And, and time goes on. And time goes on, and, growing into your veteran, at least early veteran life, you may figure it out. I look at a lot of times, even though it was a little later, with Rich Gannon, who all of a sudden for at least 3 years looked like a freaking Hall of Famer. And got himself to a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl, but you remember what he had put up in that small period of time towards the end of his career. The injuries took him out. It wasn't like, his play just got poor. It was the injuries. So, yeah, and that was a lot later maturation. But I'm thinking with these young guys coming up together, just being each other's competition, I think it's good for both of them. And then it's going to definitely make the best man survive or the best man win. And because of the new coaching staff, they don't have to have any loyalty to anyone but the person who's going to help them win. And then they could probably get that person from there. If it's Bagent, they can get Bagent and not have to look back because it's Caleb Williams and he was the number 1 pick overall. If Bagent's going to be able to carry them better than what Caleb Williams is doing, I don't think there's any sweat off their brow because
create a quarterback controversy for my team. I'm just saying Bagent gets the ball out on time. His arm strength is not probably top echelon for sure. Like I said, if it was, he'd probably be starting over Caleb Williams.
Well, the games are going to start next week. Well, at least overall in the NFL next week. And the Monday night game between Chicago and Minnesota is going to give Caleb Williams his chance in his second season to see what he's learned. You talk about the preseason, how bad some players look, and then some players look completely different once that regular season starts because everybody across the board is the starter, the persons that you've been dealing with throughout the entire training camp on the first team. You don't have to worry about, dealing with the second team guy here and there. You have all your first string guys and the new guys they brought in, whatever chemistry you had. And now with the 3-game preseason, I think that some of these teams are going to show their identity, kind of like college football, in the third week or so, because, at least they have preseason games. College football guys don't have preseason games. But, the same old NFL. These guys will show up. If you're a player, you'll play. If you're not, you're not. It didn't take C.J. Stroud a long time. It didn't take Jaden Daniels a long time. Even Lamar Jackson, when he first came in, it didn't take him a whole long time before people realized that he wasn't just your run-of-the-mill quarterback.
So did Micah have to approve going to Green Bay, or did he not have a say in the matter? Do you know?
I don't know if he had a no trade clause. I didn't read anything.
I'm just curious because, if Micah fancies himself as a superstar, I almost said stupid star.
That's a Cowboy for you.
Green Bay may not be the right place for him.
Because of Jordan Love?
How many cameras are going to be? No, not because of Jordan Love. How many cameras are there going to be on you in Green Bay? How many things are there to do in Green Bay? Is he going to get bored?
The city is small. Green Bay, the city is small. And I remember, Sam Barrington played for the Green Bay Packers.
You can only eat cheese so many times, man.
And there's not too much to go to. He invited me up there to Green Bay a couple of times. And I was like, I thought about it, but I was like, you know what? Like, what the hell is there to do? And I remember he used to show videos of him just throwing kids in the swimming pool. That's cool for the kids. You know what I'm saying? But,
any swimming pool, though.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was a cool deal, man. But, some people prefer that smaller town. Is Michael Parsons that person who just liked the small town atmosphere?
I don't know what kind of, how he thinks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Strip clubs in Green Bay. Imagine that. I don't know. But who am I to think automatically strip clubs just because it's him? We didn't think that Aaron Rodgers strip club.
I know who wouldn't like to go to Milwaukee. Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson. What is this guy? Oh, man, you talk. He's
not to get off track. Keep it football.
He still has talent. That's the worst part about it. So he can still get his game back together, but his head is on somewhere else. But back to the football, man. Hey, we talked about some NFL football, and we will talk about more of that on the next show, but this is college football time, and there are already teams playing. South Florida, I know this is going to date it, so this isn't going to be evergreen, but South Florida not necessarily expected to win against Boise State, who made it into the college football playoffs last year, but Ashton Jeanty, who's now with the Las Vegas Raiders, is not on that team. And now it seems like they're struggling a little bit at the Ray J. That's where South Florida plays. And they're down 10-7 at a halftime. I know this won't age well, but hey, was it expected to be a blowout or whatever? Going by the odds makers, 5.5 points, doesn't say it was supposed to be a blowout. I think that was a Byron Brown, the quarterback for South Florida, who was injured last year, leg injury, was playing damn well, especially against Alabama before all of this stuff did happen. And he showed up today, running for a 23-yard touchdown, I think it was. And he's throwing solidly in that first half at least. So, yeah, Boise State has something to worry about.
10-7 halftime. Things can change, but...
Yeah. You know what?
I mean, if you're supposed to be a playoff team, you shouldn't be losing to South Florida.
Well, they're ranked 25 right now anyway, so it's not the same team they had last year, specifically because of Ashton Jeanty now being with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm thinking...
Because of the conference and everything, they have a chance to run the table.
The Mountain West Conference, yeah. But, more than anything, you look at their past, regardless of whatever conference they're in, they've always opened the season on the road against good teams, great teams, etc. And they've put up some good games. They've won some of those games. I remember the year they went out to Georgia to start off in the hot weather. They lost the game, but they're not afraid of that. So, and South Florida, on the other hand, has lost their opening game, I think 4 or 5 straight times. So, but it's a different team, and it's really hard to decide anything before the season, because of NIL and the transfer portal, where things can just change in an instant. Typically, you would look at these 3 and 4 recruiting classes and try to surmise what would happen or how it should look. And it's not like that anymore. They'd rather take a transfer that's proven with another program in another system before a 5-star player they can get from scratch. Because that 5-star player these days won't be with the same team anyway in 2 seasons.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's something will go bad and they'll be in the transfer portal by December.
Craziness, but that's what it is. So Your boys are playing tonight. Nebraska taking on Cincinnati, 6.5-point favorite. And I'm glad to say, out of all the games that I needed to bet on, that was the game I decided to pick. I took Nebraska because of looking at last year's defense, even though the defensive coordinator is gone with the Florida State, Tony White with the Florida State, but that defense is still there. Dylan Raiola, in his second year, you can only get better. And what he did last year was called solid for a true freshman. That was more than solid based on everything. But this is his second year, and the offensive line, I think how many people are back? 3 or 4 people back in the offensive line. And then Cincinnati starting a freshman quarterback. They're the home team, but they're playing in Arrowhead Stadium, which is not too far from Lincoln. So I'm thinking a lot of Lincoln fans will be there.
Yeah, Coach Rule has already commented that's kind of like Nebraska's alternate home field. So the O-line, I don't know if it's solidified. They brought in Pritchett from Alabama, 5-star transfer, and he's currently 3rd on the depth chart. Now, is that a good thing? You bring in a 5-star and he can't start for you? Or is he disappointing and you got somebody else or 2 guys ahead of him?
Well, you talk about Elijah Pritchett, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's in the starting line.
It's not talent. It's just bonehead mistakes, false starts in practice.
You know what? And that's what they had a problem with last year.
That, maybe a holding penalty or blocking the wrong guy, missing an assignment. He might be more talented, but the other guys are not making mistakes. So right now, he's 3rd on the depth chart.
Yeah, and so that's going to be the difference between
how solidified that line is.
Well, you know what? I still think that he has that talent to get himself to the front and get his damn head into the game. I never said the talent disappeared, even with these 5-star players. I think it all became a mental thing when things just weren't going your way. You never had to fight and get yourself out of it because you never had to fight in high school to get yourself out of it. You were just so much better than everybody else. But in college, when things just aren't working your way, and then the other 4-star guy or even 3-star guys who's familiar with what's going on is doing better than you psychologically, I can see how that goes. I remember Leon Washington, a phenomenal high school football player, over 2,000 yards rushing, the whole 9 kickoff return, punt return. I watched the kid. And then to see him go to Florida State, and when he called me before he practiced and whatnot before the first game, he says, man, I was like, what's the biggest difference? He said, man, the blocking. He said, we were never told to block in high school because everybody blocked for you. You're the high school player. Derrick Henry said the same thing to Nick Saban when they had that conversation. They talked about it. He was like, man, be patient with me. I was never asked to block before. So I'm being asked to block. People look at me at 6'3", 250. They expected me to automatically know how to block. No. And Leon said the same thing. He was like, yeah, these blocking schemes. I was like, oh, you tough enough to block? He said, yeah, but you got to know who to block. He says, you think you could go after the biggest guy that's coming after the quarterback? He said, if that's not your assigned guy, you're not supposed to touch him. So you got to watch this dude get sacked? He was like, yeah. No, he's like, because it's somebody else's assignment. So you got to just look out for your own dude. If they say you pick up the safety and you see a damn linebacker coming in and
I got my guy. I don't know who was that.
But the damn quarterback is going to get sacrificed over it. But that's the big difference. You see these players. But yeah, I'm going with Nebraska tonight. Cincinnati, and the biggest reason for me is that freshman quarterback against that defense. The secondary wasn't great, but they were locking teams down running the ball last season.
So the defense, it should look very similar to last season. They're going to run the same scheme. It's going to still be 3-3-5. We'll just see. They got to go out there and perform. Now, on the interior, they lost 2 big guys. Ty Robinson, I think he got drafted by the Bengals. And another guy, Nash Huttenmaker. He's like a wrestling dude, 300-some pounds. You just couldn't move him around. Those guys are gone. So, their replacements have to step up. As far as Dylan Raiola, high expectations on the kid. A lot of expectations. People are expecting him to take a jump up. They're talking about how the game slows down from the freshman season to the sophomore season. And like I said, there's high hopes. They're hoping that all of that takes place for Dylan, and we'll see if baby Mahomes can have a monster season.
And that's what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking, because that biggest improvement you make is typically from your first year to your next year. And he's had those good and bad games last season, so that experience is invaluable. And I'm thinking that he has a better command of the offense now. Especially a team like Cincinnati, they aren't the same team they were when Brian Kelly was there, when they were a higher echelon team. This team isn't the same anymore. I think they won like 5 games last season. I think 3 games the season before that. So they're just not the Cincinnati we had eventually had gotten used to. You know, when Desmond Ritter was there, and that was just a couple of seasons ago. But then he comes into the NFL. I think was picked in the 3rd round and was an absolute bust ever since. But I'm thinking that this is going to be the year. And by the way, with Matt Rule, when you look at his history, his 3rd year has always been his best year with his previous teams. They got into that 10-win area in those 3 after their 3rd year, or in their 3rd year. This could be the year Nebraska possibly could get that 10 wins.
So the narrative is his teams make a 4-game jump in year 3. And so that would take them from 7 wins to 11 wins if that happens.
Well,
which will put them in the thick of the Big Ten race. But as far as Dylan, yeah, I think he's going to benefit. You know, Horgelson, they signed him. He stayed on as OC, and he had the spring with him. He had all of camp. So as you mentioned, he's going to have a better grasp of the offense. Horgelson knows what Dylan can and can't do. So I'm sure he's going to cater the offense and the schemes and play calling to what works well for Dylan. So I think, as you mentioned, that defense last year was one of the best.
Against the run, they were locking it down.
The offense just couldn't keep up their end of the bargain. If the offense can perform and the defense is anywhere close to last year, they're going to be dangerous.
And that's to be expected, though, with a true freshman quarterback. You're going to have your ups and downs. He had more ups than downs, and he had more middle of the roads than down as well. So, and it shows how intelligent he is. It showed his athleticism. It showed that he could read the defenses, you know, for what they were giving him. It's like they threw the playbook at him, and he just picked it up. And, you know, he learned trial by fire.
That's one thing they talked about. When Horgelson got on campus, he's like, they had the entire playbook open and they were calling plays from the entire playbook. He's like, do you not understand? You got a 19-year-old kid. You got to dumb it down a little bit, you know, start small and then add a page here, add a page there, add a couple pages as you go along. Don't give him the whole thing and say, here, learn this. So I think he has a much better grasp on how to develop a young quarterback than the other guy did. He calls games better. I know I complained about it last year. I'm like, I can't believe on Saturdays I see all these bubble screens on 3rd and long. Every Saturday, they'll call like 6 bubble screens. Maybe one will work. And then on Sunday, I got to watch the Bears. Same situation.
Bubble screen.
Bubble screen. Gets tackled behind the line. Later on, 3rd and 5, another bubble screen to the other side. They picked up 1 yard. Yo, the bubble screen doesn't work. Come on, man. So that was one great thing when Horgelson took over. We didn't see a whole lot of bubble screens.
And that's good. And you see the capacity that Dylan had being able to take in the playbook. And you saw it out there when you did watch him play. And, you know, and you're going to make mistakes. I remember when Chris Lee, coming out of high school, Independence High School, Gatorade Player of the Year, he was an absolute phenom out there. He had Muhammad Massaquoi to throw the ball to at Independence, who ended up going to Georgia and to the NFL. And he gets to Florida, and they had to dumb it down for him. And it's not that he's just a dumb guy. It's just that there's so much of a difference between being in high school and coming to the pros. Brock Berlin, same thing. When he came from Louisiana and came to Florida, then went to Miami, had to learn the pro book. It seemed like he never figured the playbook. He never seemed like he figured it out at all anyway. But yeah, man, that's a big deal, man. To see these playbooks that these players have and to know what you have to do. Just knowing the playbook sometimes isn't good enough. I even go back to when I talked about David Garrard, who was the backup quarterback for the Jaguars when Byron Leftwich was here. He knew the entire playbook. I remember Tom Coughlin saying, this is the smartest quarterback I've had. He knows the entire playbook as a 4th-round draft pick out of East Carolina. But when it came down to executing, It wasn't executed. He was executing his team. That was it. He wasn't doing really well. And then he never became that quarterback I thought he should have become based on what he knew, because it just didn't process as quickly as you just look at the book and know what the hell is there.
So I just have to correct myself. Bubble screens do work when you have the right personnel.
Devin Hester.
And you call them at the right time. They don't work when you call them and it doesn't work. And then you're in the same similar situation and you call it again. And then later on, similar situation, you call it again. If it didn't work the first 2 times, are you trying to out-trick them? Like, oh, we ran it twice, it didn't work. Let's run it again. I don't think they're expecting it. If you don't have the horses to run the play, if you guys can't block it properly, don't call a bubble screen. It has to be blocked properly.
These dudes try to outsmart themselves, especially coaches. They always try to outsmart themselves. Things that seem like they're right in front of them, they want to take the path of more resistance. They don't want to just take the easy way. They want to show you how smart they are because they're looking forward to the next job they're going to get. That's how it seems, by the way, when they go with some of these plays that they call. But yeah, man, I'm kind of just overall excited about the college football.
I started thinking somebody watching might be saying, my team runs bubble screens and they work, or they call it smoke screen, it works. Your team probably knows how to block them.
And that's the key. You got to get those blocks and those bubble screens, no doubt. Receivers who don't typically block have to be willing to block on a bubble screen, and some of them do. The big guys,
instead of having 6'5", 6'6" Cole Kmet blocking for DJ Moore, they try to have DJ Moore block for Cole Kmet. Come on, man.
Yeah, that don't make any sense. But some of these coaches, like I said, too damn smart for their own freaking good, man. So you know what? We spent some time in Nebraska, quite some time. There are games going on right now, by the way. I know there's Delaware and Delaware State. That's not a game that people are looking forward to. But I was more disappointing just looking at the first 5 seconds of the game and seeing that Delaware did not score yet because Delaware State is that freaking bad all the time. The Blue Hens, Joe Flacco's alma mater after he left Pittsburgh because of Tyler Palco playing so well. That's his alma mater, but they should be beating up on Delaware State now because those Hornets have been bad for several years. It's hard to believe that John Taylor from the San Francisco 49ers came from there, the HBCU Delaware State. So I hadn't looked at the score again with South Florida and Boise State. Last time I talked about it, well, it was 10-7 at halftime. So many games going on. The Canes are playing Notre Dame on Sunday night. You know, I don't want to be in an echo chamber, and that's pretty much what I've been just reading and talking and seeing things that had to do with the Canes, and you just automatically assume, man, things are going to get better. But then I just read an article a little bit ago that says the reasons why Carson Beck is going to get crushed by the Irish. So there goes the bubble. It got burst, and they made valid freaking points. Get out of that freaking bubble. Be objective and see what goes on. Carson Beck is looking good in practice. Everybody looks good in practice. But when you look at some of the numbers, I watched this guy in high school, man. That's why I always wanted him to succeed. And then he goes to Georgia. He has 2 years with that elite talent. Doesn't live up to expectation. They're force-feeding him stardom, trying to make him a star that he's not. Now he's down in Miami, and they're thinking that he's going to do what Cam Ward did, a lot to be desired. I'm hoping that that's the case, but looking at the numbers, he wasn't even pressured a lot. He was pressured 21% of the time or something like that, and he still got sacked often, and he still threw picks. You know, it reminded me of Ken Dorsey when the guy had no one even coming close to him. Bryant McKinney on one side, Joaquin Gonzalez on another side, and he still has less than 60% completions. How the hell? But that's what's happening now with Carson Beck. And you know, I think when he was under pressure, he threw a lot of interceptions. I think he completed like 33% of his passes while under pressure. That's another one that's not good. I'm hoping that SEC talent is the reason why that was happening. And now you're in the ACC. The problem is Notre Dame has a legitimate defense for any conference.
Well, here's a little bit of bulletin board. I don't know if it made it down to Coral Gables, but I saw Lou Holtz was being interviewed.
Lou Holtz?
They asked him about Catholics versus convicts. He's like, you know, that was really unfair. Really unfair. Not everybody on our team was Catholic. And then they said, "What about Miami?" He's like, "They probably were convicts. I don't know, but we weren't all Catholic."
Well,
I was
that's
like,
true.
"Oh, shots fired!
Yeah,
Shots
man. Look,
fired!"
host, man, I haven't heard that name in so long, but that is
He
royalty in
said it
college
in
football.
jest, obviously, but he was still throwing shade, man.
Man, you know what? This Notre Dame team is a legitimate. They're defensively, they're just as legitimate as any SEC defense that's out there, including Alabama. Their defense is that damn good, and so the only really saving grace is that they're playing in Miami, and if the heat is anything like it is here in Jacksonville right now, there will be a problem. There is no preparing for it being in South Bend or anywhere else up north. There's just no preparation for that kind of heat and humidity that you're going to have in Miami. So hopefully that plays a bigger role than it should play. Playing, and I don't want to expect it, but that's part of your home field advantage. You want to be able to take advantage of it, but I don't want that to be the exclusive reason why Miami may have an upper hand. Just looking at what Miami has, wide receiver wise, we lose a lot of wide receivers. In fact, Xavier Restrepo didn't make the Tennessee Titans. He was the all-time leading receiver at Miami, but there's a difference between the college players and the pro players. But JoJo Trader is the one that I'm looking forward to seeing if he steps up in his true sophomore year. He played on the other side of Jeremiah Smith, who's up at Ohio State, who is arguably the best player in all of college football right now, according to some experts. He played on the other side of him at Chaminade Madonna, along with their quarterback, I think CJ Bailey, who now starts last year as a true freshman at North Carolina State. They had that kind of talent on that one team. So I'm expecting him to take a step forward if he doesn't continue to get injured and be that guy for Carson Beck, along with there's so many other players out there as well, catching the ball for him. But good luck for those Canes or to those Canes on Sunday night when Notre Dame comes knocking, because Miami did blow them out the last time they met. There's going to be some revenge there, so we'll see.
We'll see. And for some reason, I really don't know why, but I feel like I'll be cheering for the Hurricanes. So good luck to your Canes. With that, let's wrap this up. It's game night, baby.
Okay, I say game night. Yeah, keep it short. And Castellanos, your second boys, Florida State, taking on Alabama. Castellanos transferred from Boston College, talking nonsense about Alabama. What the hell are you? You're from Boston College. Just play the game and get hurt and just move on. Craziness. Yep, but Nebraska's going to get it on with Cincinnati tonight. I took my change and put it on Nebraska 6.5. And I'm hoping Vegas doesn't screw me over and drops it a little bit.
I just hope you're not a jinx like my boy Todd, man. Every time he texts me, hey, I hope I got your boys plus 6 today or -5. I said, dude, every time you fucking tell me you bet on them, they fucking blow the game at the end. He's like, well,
everybody's making mistakes.
I just need them to cover. I said, man, stop texting me when you bet on them, dude.
Man, right now, everybody's going to make mistakes. First game of the season. College teams don't have preseason games, so you go out there with what you have.
Phone off till after the game.
Yo,
dude, I'm out. Let's go.
All right, bros. He's Bias. I'm Travis. Sports Bag Bro Podcast. We'll be back another time. So when you see us, but we will be talking about the NFL and some of these college games.
Until then, picks together. Who am I going to pick this year?
Exactly. But until then, deuces.